But we have been on the gas pedal with a lot of our interviews, and we got a stacked show here tonight. So we're going to be shifting up and into Major League Baseball because the season already kicking off, and we're now in the dog days of summer. It's been a very interesting one. And I watched this team from the very beginning where I was like, wow, they got some interesting pieces from here. Little bit of small ball here and there, Sandy Alcantara, and a lot more to look forward to in the coming years. And we'll see what comes up in the next coming months. But joining us, locking on the Miami Marlins, Jeremiah Geiger joins. Well, I will say, Jeremiah, because, when I watched this team, the start of the season, they were off to a pretty hot start. And I was like, okay, small ball. They're kind of implementing some things here and there. And, I love Sandy Alcantara. I think when he's on his stuff, the rest of the pitching staff, they're going to follow along with him. And now we're kind of in the middle of the months of June. So how do you kind of see this playing out? I know they're sitting right now in the position in the NL East, but how do you kind of see this brewing up come down into the second half of the season here for this team?
Yeah, I think with Sandy Alcantara in particular, you got to look at his trade value. The Marlins are rebuilding, and coming into the season, Sandy Alcantara was expected to be traded at the deadline. That was the expectation. If he pitches well and returns healthy from Tommy John surgery, he was going to be one of the main pieces at this deadline because the Marlins aren't contenders. They're rebuilding. The issue is, Jake, the Marlins and Sandy Alcantara, the Marlins aren't contending. That's step one of the plan, the availability to trade him. Sandy Alcantara has pitched awful. He's had one really decent start, and that came last week, earlier this week against the Rockies, rather. So he needs to string a couple of these together to get his trade value back up. Otherwise, the Marlins, there's no reason for them to sell low on a pitcher of his caliber. He has all the talent in the world. You can't sell low, especially when you have two more years of control. So right now, where I'm sitting at watching this team, it's about development. Watching Sandy, can he get back to form? Watching the younger players. Agustin Ramirez got called up, one of the Marlins' top prospects. He's a catcher. How does he continue to perform day in and day out? And that's really all we can do at this point.
Yeah, and it is interesting because I mean watching baseball for a very long time and just seeing the waves of just the Marlins. I really thought that like years ago, I'm sure you felt this way too, that this team would have had the build and the makings to where they can make the postseason. Now, of course, we know they made the postseason in a short year, but after all of that, you would think they would have built off of that for quite some time. But now they're trying to get younger pieces. They're trying to now, see what prospects they've got now that they are capable of shaping this thing to where they can be a threat in the NL East. So one piece in particular who's leading the Marlins in literally almost every category, Kyle Stowers, man. I mean, watching this kid, I think he does have a very bright future here with this organization and with the rest of these young pieces. How impressed have you been with Stowers right now at this point? And is he that guy that's going to help to be a part of that piece for the Marlins to really take him to be over the top the next few years?
Kyle Stowers has been great, which is funny because last season he was acquired at the deadline from Baltimore. He got to play every day in the outfield for the Marlins, who were out of contention at that point, and he was awful, like legitimately one of baseball's worst hitters. And coming into spring training, a lot of Marlin fans didn't even want him on the opening day roster. That's how bad it was. Couldn't hit the fastball, and as you know, if you can't hit a major league fastball, then your career's dead before it even takes off. You're not going to survive. And then this season, he makes the opening day roster, very low expectations, and just takes off. I mean, the power, the contact, the defense. He's literally outperformed everybody's expectations. And you're right. He's a player who the Marlins can look at and say, okay, you're 27 years old. It's not necessarily young by prospect standards, but you can be here a few years. And if 2026, 2027 rolls around and this team is on an upward trajectory, then Stowers absolutely can be a piece of the puzzle for this team, which is great to see. It was really, really much needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, the one thing I look at is like Jesus Sanchez, and several others on this young roster. I mean, is there a prospect in mind that you feel like watching them in the farm system that could come in and really like surprise the Marlins organization for just how good that he is right now as they're kind of building up this young, fresh roster to be prepared to compete in the next few years?
I wouldn't say necessarily surprise the Marlins. I would say surprise baseball. Joe Mack is a catcher in AAA who, when Augustine Ramirez was called up, they promoted Joe Mack from AA to AAA Jacksonville. And I was watching him live about a month ago. The sound off his bat is just different. He's got an upright stance. He can hit the ball a mile. I mean, the power is ridiculous. And the best thing with him playing a premium position as a catcher is the defense is there too. He has a cannon for an arm. He can throw out all the runners trying to steal. He calls a great game, plays good defense. I think there's a real possibility you're going to see Joe Mack get called up in September, kind of be one of the waves of those September call-ups. And into 2026, there's no reason to not believe that he's going to be the opening day catcher for the Marlins next season if everything goes well and he continues to develop.
Oh man, I'd be excited about that. And watching, college baseball as well right now with the College World Series. I mean, many bright futures that are amongst them. We know that we get the first player draft, the MLB player draft and everything that comes up as well. Is there anybody in particular that the Miami Marlins are eyeballing and targeting that they know could be a much needed help in some areas and in some spots, whether pitching, hitting in the lineup or even in fielding in some certain positions? Anybody in mind that the Marlins could be targeting?
Yeah, so when it comes to the draft, it's very different than, say, the NBA or NFL because these guys come right in. They're ready to rock and roll. With baseball, it's about making the right selection and then developing them throughout the next couple of years, which the Marlins have done a really bad job of doing, especially hitters. They're really good at developing pitchers, not hitters. What I want to see the Marlins do this season, they have the 7th overall pick. I want them to go after a high school shortstop. Get a high school shortstop who plays a premium position with athleticism, who you can rein in these tools, these natural God-given tools, and develop him into an above-average major leaguer. That's what they need. I think the pitching side of things, Liam Doyle for Tennessee is an absolute stud. He's not going to drop to 7, though. That's the issue. So if you were higher up in the lottery, maybe. But right now, I'd be targeting a middle infielder, particularly a shortstop.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it's funny because, I watch a guy like Max Muncy right now with the with the A's now, and just seeing with, the potential that he has on the bat and on the defense. If somebody of the similar caliber, if not even higher, for the Miami Marlins to play up in shortstop every day, that'd be a heck of a steal and a heck of a build for the next couple of years. I've grown up around baseball for a very long time, and I've watched this game significantly change with so many different rule changes and all the rest of this stuff. And I'm sure you've heard this multiple times and maybe had some input up on it. But I've said this to fans. If you implement the idea of a salary cap in Major League Baseball, who are you benefiting more? The owners. I live here in Denver, and I watch the Colorado Rockies and how terribly horrifying that this team is. Now, I know it kind of stings, the fact that, they came into Miami and swept them. But, when you start looking at these smaller market teams, and I'll say this, it's like most of these teams don't realize that these owners, they got money. It's not just money they have personally, but I even say this about the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got some shareholders in there. If they're going to tap into those money that's saved up from there that they know that they'll have to pay back in the next few years, that's what's going to afford a lot of these contracts. So to me, I don't agree with the idea of a salary cap for a reason, but I do believe at some point we got to now penalize these owners if they're not paying up in the money perspective to be competitive. I think what we're watching in the NBA Finals, this is Adam Silver's his vision of parity in the NBA. Do you think at some point Rob Manfred is going to end up making some parity in the league So a team like Miami and Colorado and Pittsburgh, they can all compete in the same circle.
I would love that to happen, because not a salary cap. I agree with you. The issue with the salary cap, it's not going to affect the Miami Marlins. Bruce Sherman, the owner, he's paid for 2 free agents over the last 2 years combined. It's inexcusable. Combined $8.5 million over 2 years. Like, let that sink in. That's pathetic. There's no excuse for that. He's bleeding money. He's somebody that a salary cap is going to be like, okay, well, I would never reach half of that revenue anyway. So for the parity, you can think about a salary floor possibly. I don't think Manfred wants the parity to be on the same level as the NBA. We talk about, the Pacers and Thunder in the finals, which I think is great. I like watching Halliburton. I like watching SGA, but you're going to have the big market fans just, oh, no one cares about this. And that's even worse in baseball. Think about the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, how much revenue you get on a nationwide basis. Manfred's going to sit back and be like, well, I don't care about the Marlins. Like, their last World Series was 22 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. If it's not Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, or even those little cubbies and, some of those other teams that we know are willing to pay out the money and the viewership and the sponsorships that come along with it, it's like, I ain't got no time with it,
Exactly.
But it's funny because, we're watching the Stanley Cup final right now up in Game 2 tonight, and I'm impressed with the state of Florida, with the fact that we have 6 straight years that a Florida team has made it into the final. Tampa Bay and, the Florida Panthers. So, I overlook a lot of these other teams in the state of Florida, and watching the Panthers right now and all of the hype, I'm sure you've heard a lot about there on that side. Does that kind of give a little bit more motivation, at least from a city standpoint? I mean, I've watched the Miami Heat win championships. I'm watching the Florida Panthers win championships. Miami, the Dolphins, however, we'll see what happens because they're kind of playing right now for their job. But does that kind of add some motivation to the Marlins that, hey, we want to be on the same tier level? I mean, great that hockey's successful, but hey, we still are here. I mean, 2 World Series championships. Why not get back into that, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think of Florida, the Panthers, they used to be a terrible franchise in the NHL. They're in their 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup finals. The arena for these finals games, for these playoff games, are packed. The fans love them. They're diehard fans, but they're also winning. They've done the necessary requirements to win. They've invested financially. They've made smart personnel decisions. It's an example where Miami fans, sports fans in particular, they're going to tune out the Marlins, who are 15 games under 500, to go watch the Panthers. And can you blame them? Because I can't. I love the Marlins, but hey, the diehard baseball fan's going to watch the Marlins. The casual Miami sports fan, it's so much easier to get behind a winner. That's just how it is. And the Panthers have done a really good job of that. The Heat did it for years. I mean, even a couple years ago, they made the finals. The Marlins haven't had that in 20 plus years. And unless something changes, unless there's some transparency with the fan base and commitment, not just by word of mouth, but financially, it's not going to change. And you're going to see everyone go to Sunrise and go to these games for the Panthers, whereas Lone Depot Park, you can hear a pin drop on a midday matinee. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. If only we could turn back the clock to 2003, because I could see that picture from there. Man, people would be just rocking all around up in the Miami South Beach area. But one final question before we move on is, we talked about the salary cap side. Now, I'm looking at the rules changes that we're seeing right now, because I wish this existed when I played baseball. I mean, now we're starting to get more in depth with challenges now. We're challenging certain pitch locations. We're challenging, safe or out, type of situations. And of course, the home runs, I mean, they've been around for a long time. But one thing that I've said, this game is getting even more innovative. And I wish they would have done this a few years ago, because then they would have trumped the ratings. I don't think they'll trump over the NFL, but they would at least match the competition, if not closer to it. So I don't agree with the golden at bat rule. I think that's just silly. I don't even think you need to tweak it like that. But how impressed have you been with these rule changes? And is this the rule change that could change the platform of Major League Baseball for the near future? Because, again, I love it, and I think we're going to get much better accuracy of pitches, of balls and strikes now. And how do we even fight the umpires at the end of the day? Because I don't want to take away the whole morality of the game when you got an umpire and a manager screaming in his face. So how do you think that trajectory might look like in the next few years?
I think you're going to see the ABS system be implemented fairly soon, whether it's 2026, 2027, the automatic ball strike system. It's so easy. It literally takes 10 seconds for them to make a call, and then the game continues. The pitch clock also has been a great addition because it speeds up the game. I mean, you hardly even notice it either when you're watching on TV or you're watching in person. You're not going to pay attention to that aspect, but suddenly 2 hours later, you're out on time and the pitcher's not taking 30 minutes to get through an inning. You have, 40 pitching changes in a game. That's been another good addition. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like the golden at-bat rule. I thought that was stupid, to be quite honest with you. It's just don't make the game something it's not. You have to keep some tradition because baseball is a traditionalist sport. I also don't like the idea of having a full robot umpire where there's not an actual physical umpire behind home plate and on the bases. The only rule that I think I would change, extra innings with the ghost runner on second. I was never a fan of that. They did that in the COVID season. It just changes the game. It changes the strategy. You've already played 9 innings. If you want to go win it the right way. But no, you're right. To say that Major League Baseball hasn't succeeded in implementing these rule changes, it's an understatement. They have, and they're going to continue it, hopefully, with the ABS system shortly.
That's really interesting because to me, like with the ghost runner rule, I was for this. I was like, keep that in season. Don't put it in the postseason because the postseason it's the bright lights, it's pressurizing, and that's where you got to fight for it. It's like in hockey when we have the shootout after we go through regulation and we obviously need a winner, at some point. But I love the fact the tempo and the speed now. Like I could go to a game on a Tuesday night and be okay with 2 hours, and then I got to work the next day. I can't do 4 hours, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, I got to put the kids to bed. I got to do, some stuff to do. But at least they're trending in the right direction, and I think it's exciting. We just don't want to get too excited to where we put ridiculous rule like that up out there. So again, I criticized Rob Manfred for quite a while, and now that we're seeing these changes and it's much better, and now the old heads, they'll get over it, they'll figure it out. But again, it's not like we're changing the tradition of the game. We're trying to make the tradition better. That's all that we're trying to do. I don't agree with the baseball writers with this whole Hall of Fame, induction stuff because the last few years, oh dear Lord. But yeah, I think it's trending in the right direction for a brighter future. But Jeremiah, appreciate you coming on by, man. Let everybody know for our radio and our audiences up and out there, where can people find you to get locked on for Miami Marlins content?
Absolutely. Locked On Marlins is on YouTube. It's just Locked On Marlins. Search it in the search engine. You got it. Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all the major podcast platforms, and daily episodes Monday through Friday, about half an hour long, bringing you just all the latest news, rumors, analysis. I got you all covered over there. And yeah, it's I appreciate the time being able to hop on here and talk some ball with you, Jake.
Absolutely, man. Love having you on there. Like I said, guys, tap in, check out Locked On Marlins wherever you guys get your podcast. Jeremiah, appreciate you stopping on by, man. Enjoy your Friday and enjoy the weekend, and we will see you very shortly. Good luck to the rest of the season.
Thanks, Jake. Take care.
Absolutely. Well, there you go.